First, let's start with this case. I, F25, have been dating my boyfriend, M27, for 11 months. He lives with his siblings, and I visit regularly, but I don't stay there full-time, nor sleep over every night. Recently, his siblings asked me to help pay part of his share of the household bills, like electricity and water, because I've been there often. I told them I'm not comfortable contributing since I'm just visiting and don't live there. I don't use the utilities the way they do, and my boyfriend hasn't asked me to pay anything. Now they're upset with me, and things are awkward. Here's the thing. My boyfriend recently lost his job and has been going through a tough time. He's always been the one supporting all the household expenses, including food and utilities, for everyone. I've been helping cover his food and other personal needs during this time. I feel like his siblings, especially since they're all working, should step up and help him with the household expenses now that he's struggling. They've benefited from his sacrifices for years, and I just think it's time for them to return the favor. Am I wrong for refusing to pay and expecting them to help him now? Add, I am visiting there after my work not consistent, and 6 p.m. to 12 midnight max. Use of electricity may be the fan, no cooking, no fridge, because if we needed to eat, I already bought cooked food before going. For the use of water, toilet flush, no showering. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. The entitled siblings have approached you because their golden goose has lost his job. It would be more beneficial for them to wind their necks in and actually contribute to the household. Why on earth has your boyfriend paid for all of those expenses? You're not in the wrong. This is a discussion his siblings should be having with him, not you. It's really disrespectful and interfering of them to do this to him and to you by extension. Your relationship and any mutually agreed help or responsibilities you have to one another is between you and your boyfriend. If they think you should contribute, they should talk to your boyfriend about that, and let him have agency over whether or not that's something he thinks is fair or reasonable, and the impact it may have on his relationship and life. Piece of advice, don't visit so often, and definitely don't stay overnight. People who do that tend to impose on others, so they rightfully start trying to get rent at some point. You don't describe this as such, so just stay away. Help your BF get a job. Even help him for a little bit, but put a time frame to it. I'll help you with such for the next 2 months while you find another job, and then make sure to stop at the end of that time frame. The reason I say this is because he is not your husband and you aren't engaged. You have no legal or otherwise any obligation to finance your BF out indefinitely. Let him deal with the siblings, but voice to him your opinion. Stay away from drama. Next up, me, 36, and my ex-wife, 34, were married for 10 years and have been separated, divorced for 4 years, because she cheated on me with one of the interns. This betrayal was a blow to me, because we had built a whole future together, even without children. Something that as I was sterile, I could never provide her. Something that had never been a problem for us until she made a point of throwing it in my face when I caught them in the act to justify herself. My whole family knew about it and stood by me in the separation, except my niece, who was always very attached to both of us, and especially to her, and said that I should forgive her. And although it hurt me to dislike, I couldn't go on with the marriage. After the separation, I was able to gradually rebuild my life, and even found a new girlfriend, who I will call Jane, 32, who has 2 adorable children, John, 14, and Anne, 6, and I love them as if they were mine. 4 months ago, I received the invitation to my niece's wedding and promptly accepted, until she told me that she hoped that my ex-wife and I would be her best men at the wedding. I was shocked, and I made a point of firmly saying that I could not accept the invitation, and that if she was a bridesmaid, I would not go to the wedding, and much less enter together. She got upset and broke down crying. Now my family is telling me that I'm being too hard, and that I should do this for the sake of my niece. My girlfriend also seems guilty and said that it would be okay for a day, but I don't think it's fair. Let's start judging. You can't avoid your ex being at the wedding, but you definitely don't need to walk in with her. This is some weird action on your niece's part to have the old family back together for a moment, but it's not appropriate. You're not in the wrong. Regardless of the reason, You two have been broken up for 4 years. Your niece needs to accept that. She can have a close relationship with your ex, but she doesn't have the right to impose that on you. Asking you both to attend and be civil is one thing, but to ask you to enter together, sit together, or interact in any way is too much. Hasn't your ex also moved on, or does she want to get back together? Could it be her manipulating your niece into trying to get you two back together? You're not in the wrong. This is your niece using her wedding as a manipulative tool to attempt to make her delusional, immature fantasy of your reconciliation come true. You don't have to agree. She gets to invite anyone she wants. You can celebrate her wedding and support her in another way if you don't want to go. She doesn't get to control your legit feelings. You get to decide whether to go or not. I don't think you'd be doing her a favor by agreeing to this regardless, because the reality is the normal, obvious, and understandable tension, if this actually happened, would detract from her day. Let's be real. Next up, I work at a hotel, and yesterday there was a guy loitering here about an hour after checkout time. He was on the stairs on the far end of the building, and one of the housekeepers mentioned him to me and said he was there for 30 minutes. I was busy, so I didn't do anything about it at first. 15 minutes later, the housekeep came back and said he was still there. I went to talk to him and see if I recognized him as a guest. When I walked up, I said, "Excuse me, sir," and he didn't answer, but he moved his head a bit, so I know he heard me. I said it like 5 times, no exaggeration, before he finally got mad and told me he's waiting for a lift and flashed his phone with the app open. I asked him if he was staying at the hotel, and he said he was, but he refused to give me a room number. Since he was being so rude, I told him he needed to leave, and he refused that too. He said, "Duck off. I don't have to do what you say. You can't make me leave." I told him if he wouldn't leave on his own, I would call the police. He said they wouldn't do nonsense. I was so mad that this guy was being so rude and wouldn't listen to me, so I called the non-emergency police line. When he realized it, he walked over to the fast food place next door, so I told the lady on the phone never mind. I told my boyfriend about it last night, and he said I was being one of those Karens who overreacts and calls the police on black people for no reason. But I don't know what else I was supposed to do to make him leave. He wouldn't listen to me. As long as he was polite, I wouldn't have told him to leave if he was really just waiting for a lift. But he was really mean right from the start, and it upset me. Let's start judging. You didn't mention his skin color until the end of the story. If you're wondering if you were the idiot for calling the cops on a black man loitering, you should lead with that information. It upset me is generally not a valid reason to call the police. More info needed. The question is, what is the hotel's policy here? If you followed the policy, you were not the idiot. You were doing your job, which, if not done, could subject you to termination, among other things. Keep in mind, your job is to protect the guests and ensure the hotel is safe for them. Men sitting on staircases for 45 minutes are not typically waiting for a lift in the middle of the day. Now, he might have been killing time until he needed a ride, and he might have been a guest until that time. But when he refused to provide you with that information, you were left with few choices. So if you followed hotel policy, you're not in the wrong. If you didn't follow policy and called the police because you were upset, then you're in the wrong. You're not in the wrong. If he would have said right off the bat that he was a guest of the hotel and was just waiting on a lift, I'm guessing you would have left him be. However, by being evasive and rude, it would lead one to believe he didn't belong there. You're not in the wrong. And keep in mind, everyone saying you're in the wrong likely isn't thinking about your job or hasn't worked in a job where this is a recurring problem. You can only offer so much, and at the time, you tried to do all that you could. I've worked and have continued volunteering with groups helping the homeless population, and one rule that has never come up is, since they're homeless, they get free rein. You tried to ask if he needed help. You would have let him come inside if he seemed like a non-threat. You gave him the choices you had. You tried. Yes, it was just the outside. But at a hotel, people loitering around is hella creepy, and I would have been highly uncomfortable no matter who they were. Next up, so I, 19F, took a gap year off of university after my first year for my health and also to earn some money. My aunt, 42, has 2 children, 11M and 7F, and she asked if I could live with them and help her as an in-help childcare, and she pays me for it. I accepted and have been staying with her and her husband, 43M, for a few months now. Problems started because I realized that my nephew frequently picks on and bullies his younger sister, ripping the heads of her stuffies, breaking her toys, ripping her drawings, etc. He frequently makes fun of her and is overall terrible to her. I have tried multiple different attempts to stop it, having a heart-to-heart with him, taking away his gadgets, grounding him, etc. But the behavior stops for a week at best before he starts again. His parents are not much help because my aunt is always tired. She makes a lot from a demanding job and comes back and cleans up around the house and makes dinner. My uncle comes back from work and doesn't contribute to the house chores in any way. And when I brought up taking my nephew to therapy, he dismissed it as pseudoscience. He is very averse to therapy. Now, where the issue started is I overhear my niece and nephew fighting again, and I immediately assume he's started something again and ask him to please give his sister a break. I learned that his sister was the cause of the fight this time. She poured water on his Nintendo Switch, damaging it. I apologized for blaming him and pulled her aside and asked her why she did it, as she is not the type to do that. She said that she wanted her brother to stop picking on her, and she wanted to get back at him. My uncle comes home and says that I should give her the same punishment as his son to be fair, and was angry that I only made her write an apology letter to him, instead of grounding her or taking away her tablet. I don't believe it's fair to punish her the same way for her first offense, but he said that I was picking favorites and that he could see I was biased. So, am I the idiot? Edit, we are not blood related, but basically grew up together, and my mom and aunt are practically family. I call them niece-nephew because I always have. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Kick a dog enough times and it'll bite. Sister clearly had enough. If they aren't correcting their brother's behavior, then that's on them. You're not in the wrong. It's only fair to give a more minor punishment to the 7-year-old. A single water pour on a Nintendo Switch isn't a major issue. You should almost thank the girl for cleaning his screen. But tearing dolls' heads off is definitely worse. Breaking stuff is way more lethal. You're not in the wrong. Your niece was acting in self-defense and has shown multiple signs that she's annoyed with what her brother's doing. You definitely made the right call. Maybe try letting the aunt and uncle know that she did it because she was fed up. I don't think she was doing it to bully her brother, only to show she's not going to take it anymore.